All right, so we're going to go over the stuff that we missed today as we start A Sound of Thunder. Before we begin, I want to talk to you about everything that's inside of the week 4 folder because there's some different things going on for our um, independent work. We have ScoopPad again this week, as always, 30 questions. This week we have a practice lesson in there. Watch the video, and then once you've watched the video, you can do the practice questions about diction. For the Sound of Thunder, we have two different independent assignments. We have our window notes, and then we also have vocab that goes along with it. So the window notes and the vocab are two things that you will have to do on your own, and you have 2 weeks to complete that. Now, underneath of all of that is the actual story, which is called A Sound of Thunder. This is by Ray Bradbury. We can go ahead and click on here and open it up. And for our first day, we got through just a small portion of this. Okay, so this has every single part of the story on here. If you scroll down, the entire short story is on this Kami assignment. That's why it's so long. We're going to be working on this for several days. This video is just for the first day of the work that we did. So we're starting off with this first question. It says, The Sound of Thunder is a story about time travel. And then in this box here, it's asking you to write down where would you go if you could travel back through time. Would you go to the past? Would you go to the future? Would you stay where you're at? Or would you try to travel around and see different parts of the world that you haven't seen? Let me make this a little bigger. Okay, so go ahead and take a second right now, pause the video, and write out your 2 to 3 sentences. I'm assuming that you're back. So with 2 to 3 sentences, you should have been able to tell me where you're going. I would be interested to see just how many of you put down that going back in time sounds like a dangerous thing to do. It's accepted in our pop culture movies and TV shows of today that we shouldn't go back in time because it's dangerous. We watched that video about the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is the idea that a small change over time can have a big impact. This story that we're about to read is the reason that we have that in our movies and TV shows. If it weren't for this story, we might not have movies and TV shows where people go back in time and something goes wrong. This was the first one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read this first part. The sign on the walls seemed to move. Eccles felt his eyelids blink over his stare, and the sign burned into the darkness. Nervousness rose in Eccles' throat. He swallowed and pushed it down. He put his hand slowly up in the air, and that hand waved a check for $10,000 to the man behind the desk. Does this safari guarantee that I come back alive? Eccles asked. We guarantee nothing, said the official, except the dinosaurs. He turned. That there is Mr. Travis. He's your safari guide in the past. He'll tell you what and where to shoot. If he doesn't tell you to shoot it, don't shoot it. Disobeying the instructions gets you a stiff fine for another $10,000. Also, there's the possibility that the police will get involved when you return. Now, up in the top corner, you can see over here is the sign that he's staring at. Eccles is our main character, and he is currently at the Time Safari Inc. Incorporated. Their slogan is Safaris to anywhere in the past. You name the animal, we take it there, and you shoot it. Eccles glanced across the office at the mass of tangled wires and steel boxes, lights that flickered in a row of orange and then silver and then blue. Unbelievable, Eccles breathed. The light of the machine on his face was unreal. A time machine. He shook his head. Really makes you think. If the election had gone badly yesterday, I might be here running away from the results trying to change it. Thank God Keith won. He'll make the fine President of the United States. Yes, said the man behind the desk, we're lucky. If Dutcher had gotten in, we'd have the worst kind of leader, but Keith is our president now. Lost my place. All you have to worry about is shooting my dinosaur, Eccles finished for him. A Tyrannosaurus Rex, the tyrant lizard, the most incredible monster in history. Sign this release. Anything happens to you, we are not responsible. Those dinosaurs are hungry. Eccles flushed angrily. Are you trying to scare me? Frankly, yes. We don't want you going. We don't want anyone who's going to panic at the first shot. 6 safari leaders were killed last year and a dozen hunters. Your personal check is still there. Tear it up if you don't want to go. Mr. Eccles looked at the check in his fingers that twitched. Good luck, said the man behind the desk. Mr. Travis, he's all yours. So our first question is, why is Mr. Eccles traveling back in time? What does he want to do? I want you to pause and see if you can answer this question. I'll go back through after I finish reading this. I'll go back through and show the answers. They moved silently across the room, taking their guns with them toward the machine, towards the silver metal and the blazing light. The machine roared to life. They put on their oxygen helmets and tested their intercoms. Eccles swayed on the padded seat. His face was pale and his jaw was stiff. He felt his trembling arms look down, and he found his hands were gripped tightly around his new rifle. There were 4 other men in the time machine. Travis, the safari leader, his assistant, L'Esperance, or however you say his name, and the 2 other hunters, Billings and Kramer. They sat looking at each other, and the years blazed around them. As they go through the time machine, the description is that the years are blazing around them. So this passage here that I have highlighted is highlighted because this shows us our 5 main characters. We have 2 people leading the safari, and we have 3 hunters going on the trip. We have our main character, Eccles, and the 2 other hunters are named Billings and Kramer. The man leading the expedition to shoot the T-Rex is named Travis, and his assistant is L'Esperance, or however you say his name. Can these guns really kill a dinosaur? Eccles asked. He felt his mouth saying it without him thinking. If you hit 'em right, said Travis on their helmet radio. Put your first 2 shots in their eyes if you can, to blind them, and then go back for their head. Our third question, how is Eccles feeling at the start of this trip? What details tell us this? I'll go back through again when we're done. The time machine whirled to a stop. That, Mr. Travis pointed, is the jungle of 64,002,055 years before President Keith. He indicated a metal path that struck off into the green wilderness, over the steaming swamps, among giant ferns and palms. And that, he said, is the path laid by Time Safari Incorporated for your use. It floats 6 inches above the earth. doesn't touch even one blade of grass or one flower or any of the trees. It's an anti-gravity metal to make it float, and its purpose is to keep you from touching anything in the world of the past. Stay on this path. Do not go off it for any reason. If you fall off, there is a penalty, a fine. If you shoot any animal that we don't tell you to shoot, there's also a fine. Okay, and we're going to stop reading there for today. We have our fourth question. What is the anti-gravity metal path, and why must the men stay on it? I want you to pause the video and see if you can answer this before I go back up and show you the answers. Okay, so for number 2, why is Eccles going on this trip? Eccles is paying $10,000 to be led on an expedition or a safari to shoot a T-Rex. A safari is a hunt for big game. Back when this story was written, it was incredibly popular to go to Africa and shoot yourself a rhino or something. It's one of the reasons that those animals are endangered today. So when Ray Bradbury thought of this story, he thought to himself, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if instead of going to Africa, my main character went back in time, and instead of shooting a rhino, he shot a T-Rex. Our third question asks us, what is Eccles feeling? The answer here, Eccles is feeling nervous. We know this because he's shaking, he's trembling, he's gripping his gun real tight, he has a stiff jaw. It basically even says that he's nervous at the top, I think. Nervousness rose in Eccles' throat. He asks if the gun is going to even work on the dinosaur. Hey, are you sure this is going to work? And back at the beginning, he asks, does this guarantee that I'm going to come back alive? So he's obviously pretty nervous. He thinks that something is going to go wrong. And the man behind the counter, when he was paying the $10,000, said, hey, look, we don't want anyone going if they're going to chicken out. So you better be ready. Number 4, what is the path? The path is an important part to this. It's going to come into play later. So you need to understand that this path is a floating walkway, literally using fictional anti-gravity metals to float 6 inches above the earth. They have to stay on this path so that they don't touch anything from the past, and if they step off of it, there's a fine from the company. And also, since I've told you that something is going to go wrong, I'm guessing you can probably surmise that that's probably going to happen. So we're going to stop there for today. If you missed class, then you're all caught up. We'll pick up tomorrow with, right here, with the tour guide telling them they don't want to change the future.